Hello, I'm Gavin Houchell and welcome to another of the Head Honcho interview series. I'm delighted today to be joined by John Veitch, the CEO of TTC. Now, John, you joined TTC, I think, back in late 2015?
Yeah, so.
And prior to that, spent 11 years working with Flight Centre.
Mm-hmm.
And in your early career, I believe you obviously donned from the UK with PwC, and from memory, you spent some time in Jamaica as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
You've seen a bit of the world.
I've been around and had a crack at a few things over the years. Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. And John, as if I think about TTC, not everyone will be familiar with the business and probably understand Flight Centre, but perhaps you can open up.
Yeah, that's right. It's been interesting moving from a company like Flight Centre, which is such a well-known brand and everyone kind of knows it, household name, to TTC, which is not a household name, despite the fact that TTC houses a family of brands. So TTC is a private family company, which is actually probably the largest holiday company in the world, privately owned. So it owns companies such as Kentucky, Trafalgar, Insight Vacations, AAT Kings, Adventure World, Red Carnation Hotels, and actually it's a conglomerate of about 35 different travel holiday companies around the world. So it's a very large company with a very large number of people we send out of Australia.
And how many people are in the group globally?
Globally? That's a good question, Gavin. Quite a few, thousands. I mean, you've got everybody from people literally who are tour directors, coach drivers, people on the ground taking people around destinations and experiences. So it's a very large business across the whole world.
Yeah. And how did your early career going through the likes of, from chartered through to the likes of Flight Centre set you up for success into a CEO role?
Sure. I think the way I saw that process was, as you said when we opened up, that I did a lot of different roles in my career. I've been to do a lot of different things. And actually that was almost by planning. Okay. That I kind of wanted to get an enormous amount of skills and experience as I went around into different roles, so that I would get myself into a position where in the role I am now, that basically the skills were there to do what I do now. And I needed that experience. So basically I did a lot of different things. As you say, I started with PricewaterhouseCoopers in London. I worked for Wrexham. Now Wrexham makes half the Coca-Cola cans in the world and half the Flora tubs in the world. So it's one of those things you open up the fridge and there's a whole bunch of things made by Wrexham, but it's one of those unknown brands. And then I worked for Reuters in M&A and strategy. And then, as you say, then I went to Cable and Wireless, worked in London and Jamaica, working in Jamaica in the mobile phone business. Was very.
Is that a slightly slower pace in Jamaica or not?
Yeah, look, there was a certain different business culture, which you kind of had to get used to and adapt. And I think that really helped me to adapt to different cultures and that sort of. So you had to be. You had to go with the flow on some things, but incredible experience to go and work in a place like Jamaica, and just very different business environment, and gave me a great opportunity for a very large leadership role. Probably my first really large leadership role was in Jamaica, and then came on to back to Australia, found my way to Flight Centre. Worked as a divisional CFO initially, and then another divisional CFO role, then a GM role and then an MD role for the Flight Centre Group, running everything from retail brands like Flight Centre and Student Flights and Escape Travel and Cruiseabout, through to, for the last 3 years I was with Flight Centre, the corporate brands, being FCM Travel Solutions, Corporate Traveller, Stage and Screen, Campus Travel, which a number of people, I suppose, who would watch this would be a number of the brands they'd use for their corporate travel.
Absolutely. And I sit and talk and advise a number of divisional CFOs that are still contemplating the pathway of either group CFO or into general management. From your sort of experience and I guess hats that you've worn, is there a right pathway and a right timing of which role when? What's your views?
My view, Gav, is categorically there's not a right way.
Okay.
There's whatever way your way is and whatever your journey is. And I think it's the journey you take is going back to that theme about getting those skills and experiences as you go along and finding those and doing the different roles which will give you those. So if you find that in a divisional CFO role, great, or a group CFO role. If you find it in a divisional managing director role or whatever, that's great too. But I think always having in mind what's your destination. So where do you want to be? What do you want to do when, do you want to be the group CFO? Do you want to be the group CEO? What is that role? And then building a career and a pathway which takes you to that destination. I think, one shouldn't just, go aimlessly through this career and that career, not with that end destination in mind.
Yeah. And in terms of confidants along the way, I mean, have you been fortunate or have you sought out your own sort of...
Look, I have been very fortunate. I think there's those people you meet along the way which, inspire you, but also ones who in a way, you just take so much from the way they operate. I mean, there was a guy in Wrexham who was a Balliol scholar who I worked for, and he was, he was incredibly smart, and every lunchtime he just sort of roll back his chair and put his feet on the desk for half an hour, put his hand behind his head, and he'd just think for half an hour. And I really took away, say, from that was just that you've got to think when you're in business. You can't just do, you've got to work on the business, not just in the business. And then Screw Turner in Flight Centre, incredibly inspirational guy. I've taken a lot from him, and a lot of other great leaders along the way and mentors, and some. I also had an executive coach for a while, which was phenomenal, and really helped me on a few things along the way. So it's been great too.
Good to hear. Now people talk about that end destination per se of being in a CEO role, but can be quite lonely. So first of all, if you're happy to share, what do you most fear now as the number one person, and what do you love?
Sure. Fear is an interesting one, and I think with fear, it's actually I have such a sense of responsibility to my team and the people within my business, and that's to create an environment where they want to come to work, an environment which grows them as individuals, and a sustainable, profitable, growing business, which it's exciting to be a part of. And I feel an enormous sense of responsibility on that front. So I suppose you could say my biggest fear is not doing that. And that would be that. In terms of what do I love most? Without a doubt, the thing I absolutely love most is watching people when they develop and grow. And if you contribute just a little part to their growth, and I believe that people have to take ownership of their own growth, but if you contribute to that growth, and then you see them get into the role they really want to, they aspire to, or succeed in what they've really wanted to do, that's an amazing thing to watch, and watch their success.
Absolutely. Now, I dial the clock back several years, back to I think 2003, 2004 when we first rendezvoused.
I tell you, that ages both of us.
Unfortunately so.
Wow, okay.
What would you have loved to have said to yourself then in terms of, reflections or advice?
Advice for myself in 2004. I think there's a few things there, actually. One is find a business you're absolutely passionate about. And I'm very passionate about travel and holidays and that part, so I love doing what I do. So I think being passionate about what the business does, I think is incredibly important. I think read more. I think it was only sort of really post 2004 that I started reading books.
When you
leadership
say
books, business leadership books. And I found those incredibly useful on my journey and growing myself and that ownership of myself. And then the final one is, just have fun. Got to have fun along the way. Because that's what makes, you've got to get up, you've got to want to get to do your job. You've got to want to get in the office. I love getting in the office and kind of open the doors and I'm ready for action. And that's because I have fun when I'm there. So, have a laugh along the way.
And if you're going to have fun, have more holidays, obviously.
Absolutely. and if in doubt, if anybody wants to, absolutely. Holidays are absolute. Make sure you take your annual leave time and book lots of holidays. Good. Absolutely.
Well, it's been an incredible journey to watch you enjoy the last sort of 10, 15 years, John. So thank you for sharing today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
very much. Cheers.
Cheers.